I recently learned that it's possible to live in a city for your entire life and be completely unaware of some pretty interesting things that are right under your nose. I've lived in Fort Smith, Arkansas all of my life. I spent the last 34 years working in downtown Fort Smith, and the last 10 of those 34 years working across the street from the courthouse lawn. My office window faces the county courthouse, and therefore I've been glancing out my window every day, multiple times a day, at the courthouse lawn for the last 10 years. It's a well-kept lawn with nicely mowed grass, a few statues, a bench, and some trees. I have always used that pleasant view as a means to rest my eyes from the glare of the computer screen. However, I had no idea that for the last 10 years, I've been glancing out my office window at a world celebrity, or that this world celebrity had been to the moon. To me, it was just a pretty pine tree. Actually, it is a loblolly pine tree with a very interesting history. This is one of several trees around the world that are known as moon trees. Here is the story that explains why they are called that. On January 31st, 1971, Apollo 14 was launched on what was to be the third trip to the surface of the moon. According to David Williams in the Moon Trees, 5 days later, as Alan Shepard and Edgar Mitchell walked on the moon, Stuart Roosa, a former U.S. Forest Service smoke jumper, orbited above them in the command module Kitty Hawk. However, astronaut Roosa was not alone in the command module. With him, packed in small containers, were hundreds of tree seeds. These space-traveling seeds were part of a joint NASA-United States Forest Service project. Upon their return to Earth, these seeds were germinated by the Forest Service and planted throughout the United States and the world. The resultant trees were known as the Moon Trees. The project began after Roosa was chosen for the Apollo 14 mission. Types of seeds to be sent to the moon were chosen by Stan Krugman, a Forest Service employee. Mr. Krugman chose 5 different types of seeds: loblolly pine, sycamore, sweet gum, redwood, and the Douglas fir. About 400 to 500 seeds were packed into Mr. Roosa's personal kit to make the trip to the moon, and control seeds were kept on Earth for later comparison. Unfortunately, the seed canisters burst open during the decontamination process upon their return to Earth. The seeds got mixed together and were presumed no longer viable. However, the seeds were sent to Gulfport, Mississippi, and Placerville, California, to attempt germination. All of the seeds germinated successfully, and there were now 450 seedlings. Some of the seedlings were planted alongside their earthbound counterparts to see how they compared. Most of them, though, were given away in 1975 and 1976 and were planted in conjunction with the nation's bicentennial celebration. Not all states were given trees, since the trees were southern and western in species and could not grow in all climates. A loblolly pine tree was planted at the White House. There were several trees planted in Washington Square, Philadelphia, Valley Forge, and at various NASA centers. In A Moon Tree, Gail Wells discusses the moon tree that is planted on the campus of Oregon State University College of Forestry. There were moon trees planted in Brazil and Switzerland, and even presented to the Emperor of Japan. On March 15, 1976, Arbor Day, a loblolly pine moon tree was planted in the courthouse lawn in Fort Smith, Arkansas, as part of the bicentennial celebration. That loblolly pine tree is still growing there today. At its base is a plaque commemorating the planting and stating that the tree was grown from one of the seeds that had traveled to the moon aboard Apollo 14. Stuart Roosa, the seed's companion aboard the Kitty Hawk, passed away in 1994. Some of his trees, however, are still alive. A NASA archivist, Dave Williams, started a web page about the moon trees when he learned of their existence. To date, about 90 trees have been accounted for, according to Elizabeth Zubitsky, in a race against time to find Apollo 14's lost Voyagers. In Where the Moon Trees Grow, Robert Westerover tells us that about a third of the moon trees that have been accounted for are already dead. The tree that was planted in Washington Square has died and has been replaced by a clone. This makes the tree, which I see from my office window, even more of a celebrity. Because it's one of only approximately 60 remaining living moon trees that have been accounted for. Since I have learned the history of the pretty pine tree that I see every day when I glance out of my window at the courthouse lawn, I simply cannot look at it the same. That loblolly pine tree has done something that only a handful of human beings have ever done. That seed germinated and grew has been to the moon. As I said before, it is possible to live and work in a city for years and be completely unaware of some pretty interesting things that are right under your nose, or in my case, right outside your window. We should all take the time to learn about the place in which we live. What we learn might just change the way we view our little corner of the world.